The Unlived Life, Why Your Potential is Your True Hell. Introduction. There are moments, are there not? Stillnesses that descend, when the world holds its breath and a thought, like a sigh from a long-sealed chamber, drifts into the quietude of your mind. It is a thought of a path untrodden, a craft unmastered, a dream that has leached its color like a sun-bleached daguerreotype. Perhaps you stand at your window tracing the descent of rain, or lie awake in the velvet dark, and then, with a sudden clarity, you perceive it, the spectral outline of an alternate existence. A life where your courage blazed, your skills shone, where you were, in essence, more profoundly you. This is no ephemeral yearning. It is a persistent specter, a profound, knowing certainty that something vital has been left behind, immured. It is the silent throb of what might have been, a haunting that no edifice of success, no cushion of comfort, can truly subdue. This feeling, this haunting, possesses a poignancy that eclipses any external tribulation, a chill that outstrips the keenest wind. This volume posits that the most profound, the most agonizing suffering we are capable of enduring is not to be found in realms of inferno and perdition, but in the hushed, devastating confrontation with the person you could have become. This is the veritable abyss, the phantom of your unlived life, the wraith of your unrealized potential, forever casting its shadow upon your present reality. It is not a matter of failing at an endeavor, it is the failure to even embark upon the journey toward becoming the person you were destined to be. This lies at the heart of what we term unfulfilled potential. It is the vast, desolate expanse between the life you inhabit and the richer, more resonant existence you possessed that capacity to forge. This is not a sentence meted out from without, it is a consequence born from within, from a dereliction of duty to grasp the reins of your own being. We are we not, artisans of justification? We can indict our lineage, our circumstances, the cosmic imbalance of the world, or the caprice of fortune. We erect ramparts of excuse, brick by meticulous brick, to insulate ourselves from the disquiet of confronting our own inertia. But I implore you, with every fiber of my conviction, why not you? Why not you, who are imbued with the same vital spark, the same innate capacity for growth, the same latent potential for magnificence as any other soul? The unvarnished truth is that the power to transmute your existence, to escape the torment of unfulfilled potential, resides unequivocally within your grasp. It is not a matter of petitioning for leave or awaiting celestial alignment. It is the acceptance that you were the master architect of your reality, the sovereign creator of your destiny. Your external world is but a faithful mirror, reflecting the landscape of your inner state. When you transform yourself, your world undergoes a sympathetic metamorphosis. Dreams are indeed exquisite apparitions, yet they remain mere murmurs on the breeze until they are given tangible form through action. Potential, however boundless, lies dormant until it is roused. This awakening demands more than a fleeting surge of inspiration. It necessitates discipline. Discipline is the quiet, unyielding covenant to perform that which is required, even when the siren call of comfort or escape assails your senses. It is the steady hand that navigates the treacherous currents, the consistent exertion that cultivates momentum, and in tandem with discipline arrives sacrifice. To construct something of enduring value, to ascend to the zenith of your capabilities, you must embrace the willingness to relinquish. This may entail foregoing immediate gratification for the promise of enduring reward, abandoning the solace of the familiar for the transformative power of the unknown, or shedding the opinions of others to embrace the unassailable truth of your own being. This path is not facile, indeed, it is profoundly arduous. Yet, the alternative, a life perpetually haunted by the specter of your unlived potential, is a far greater and infinitely more unbearable torment. This book is not a repository of hollow assurances or saccharine platitudes. It is a clarion call to engagement. It is a meticulously crafted guide designed to empower you to confront the insidious excuses that have held you captive, to apprehend the profound dominion of self-mastery, and to forge the unyielding mental fortitude essential for the relentless pursuit of your aspirations. We shall excavate the concealed impediments that obstruct your ascent into your full power and equip you with the concrete strategies to actively sculpt the life you were ordained to inhabit. Together, we shall transmute the haunting shadow of your unfulfilled potential into the incandescent radiance of your actualized self. Are you prepared to cease dwelling in the echo of what might have been and commence the creation of the life that is? Chapter 1. The Weight of Potential. 1. Understanding Personal Responsibility. From our nascent moments, we are indoctrinated with the notion that the world acts upon us. Life is presented as a sequence of occurrences, a tapestry woven with threads of fortune and misfortune, each largely beyond our dominion. We are sculpted by the imprints of our progenitors, the lessons of our educators, the character of our environs, the currents of the economy, and the capricious turns of fate. This narrative offers solace. It permits us to relinquish the arduous mantle of expectation, to unburden ourselves. It assures us that any perceived shortcomings are not of our making. The fault, it proclaims, lies with external forces. Yet, this narrative, this portrayal of ourselves as mere passive voyagers on the river of existence, is a fabrication. It is a comforting illusion, a silken bed of justifications upon which we may recline, lost in reveries of what might have transpired. And that, my companions, is the precipice of the most profound and agonizing lament of all, the unactualized life. Consider this. How frequently do we encounter the lament, I would undertake X, were it not for, I would launch my own enterprise, but I lack the capital. I would return to my studies, but the hour is too late. I would pursue my ardor, but my kin are dependent upon me. These buts are not impediments. They are fortifications we erect around ourselves. They are the echoes of external causality, murmuring seductive assurances of inertia. They whisper that our circumstances are immutable, our trajectory predetermined, and our potential a cruel jest from a cosmos that bestowed upon us the faculty for aspiration, but withheld the power for its realization. This orientation of mind forms the very foundation of dormant potential. It excavates a chasm between who we are and who we possess the capacity to become, a void that widens. With each excuse proffered, each deferred aspiration, each moment we surrender to the conviction of being a pawn of our environment rather than the artisan of our destiny. The unlived life is not one wrested from your grasp. It is one you elected not to construct. It is the quiet, gnawing certainty that the individual you embody today falls woefully short of the person you were endowed to become. Herein lies the advent of personal accountability, not as an oppressive chain, but as a liberating key. It is the juncture at which you cease seeking external justifications and commence delving inward for resolutions. It is the valorous declaration, yes, my circumstances are as they are, but my response to them, my actions, my choices, these are unequivocally mine. This is not an indictment of your culpability for events truly beyond your purview, such as a childhood malady or a natural cataclysm. It is about assuming stewardship over the choices that are within your grasp, the power that does reside within you. Here and now, personal responsibility is not an encumbrance, it is the ultimate wellspring of your potency. When you embrace accountability, you reclaim your agency. You transition from a spectator in your own drama to its protagonist. Abruptly, the buts begin to disintegrate. I lack the capital transmutes into how may I acquire the capital. It is too late evolves into what knowledge may I impart to myself commencing today. My kin are dependent upon me becomes how may I provide for my kin whilst simultaneously nurturing my aspirations. This metamorphosis in perspective is not readily achieved. It necessitates fortitude. It demands that you confront the seductive narrative of victimhood and step into the often uncomfortable glare of self-authorship. But the recompense is immeasurable. The instant you wholeheartedly embrace personal responsibility, you unlock a reservoir of fortitude you never fathomed you possess. You apprehend that external challenges, while undeniably present, are not insurmountable barriers. They are merely hurdles to be surmounted, enigmas to be resolved, opportunities to be seized by one willing to assume ownership. Consider the myriad chronicles of individuals who have ascended from the most dire predicaments. Reflect upon those who emerged from abject penury, confronted systemic prejudice, or endured profound personal bereavements. Did their path unfold effortlessly? Assuredly not. Were they dealt a challenging hand? Frequently, yes. But what distinguished them from those who remained ensnared? It was their unyielding refusal to abdicate their agency. They surveyed their predicament and posed the question, "What action may I initiate?" They did not await the world's transformation on their behalf. They transformed themselves, and in doing so, they reshaped their world. This leads us to a fundamental inquiry that each soul must confront. Why not you? If another, perhaps with fewer advantages, lesser talent, or even greater impediments, managed to realize their potential, to forge a life of import and influence, then what is arresting your progress? Is it truly a paucity of opportunity, or is it an unwillingness to embrace the responsibility that accompanies opportunity? Is it the world that impedes you, or is it the internal discourse you conduct regarding your own limitations? The imperative of "why not you?" serves as a formidable instrument for dismantling self-imposed impediments. It compels you to look beyond the justifications and rationalizations and to perceive the raw, unalloyed potential that resides within you. It underscores that the primary obstacle to your aspirations is not external, but internal. It is the dread of failure, the apprehension of judgment, the fear of the arduous exertion required, and, most critically, the terror of acknowledging that if you do not prevail, the sole individual culpable is yourself. This internal metamorphosis is the prerequisite for any meaningful external alteration. Your external circumstances are often a mirror reflecting your internal disposition. If your inner realm is saturated with doubt, trepidation, and a proclivity for assigning blame, your external world will likely echo that sentiment. But if you cultivate an inner landscape of self-assurance, courage, and a profound commitment to personal accountability, you will commence to witness a shift in your external reality. You will attract opportunities, surmount challenges, and construct the life you covet, not because the world has inexplicably become more accommodating, but because you have become more robust, more capable, and more resilient. The cost of abdicating personal responsibility is staggering. It is the gradual, insidious erosion of your potential. It is the accumulation of regrets that weigh upon your spirit like stones. It is the quiet despair of retrospection, beholding a life that might have been, a life replete with purpose and accomplishment, yet forever unlived because you elected to remain a passenger, castigating the road, the weather, or the conveyance, rather than seizing the helm. The fleeting comfort of excuses is a paltry exchange for a lifetime of dissatisfaction. Let us be unambiguous then. Your unlived life is not a tragedy visited upon you. It is a consequence of your choices. It is the outcome of your refusal to engage with your own power, your own capacity, your own potential. It is the ultimate regret because it is a regret born not of striving and faltering, but of never striving at all. The initial and perhaps most pivotal stride in reclaiming your existence from the grasp of unfulfilled potential is to fully comprehend and embrace personal responsibility. It is to cast aside the mantle of victimhood and assume the potent, liberating role of the architect of your own being. It is to recognize that while you cannot invariably dictate what transpires to you, you can invariably dictate your response. And within that command, within that agency, lies the germ of all that you can become. When we truly apprehend that personal responsibility is not a sentence of culpability but the very genesis of our power, we can then begin to fathom its application. This power is not ethereal, it is tangible, and it is forged through consistent, deliberate action. The weight of potential, once perceived as this inherent obligation, transmutes from a passive burden into an active clarion call. It compels us to cease our waiting and commence our doing, to actively engage with our aspirations, and to commit to the often arduous, but ultimately liberating process of becoming the individual capable of realizing them. This is the portal to the subsequent essential, and frequently formidable, yet profoundly remunerative, domain, the embrace of discipline and sacrifice. 2. The power of taking action. Within you resides a cosmos of possibility, a seed pregnant with the blueprints for an oak's grandeur, a rose's bloom, or a redwood's skyward reach. Yet, even the most potent seed remains dormant, a mere promise, until it is surrendered to the soil, nourished by water and bathed in sunlight. This is the elemental truth of your potential. It is not a static destination to be discovered, but a dynamic journey commencing with a single, intentional stride. To possess potential is to bear a profound weight, not of burden, but of obligation. It is the silent indictment of what could be, a persistent resonance beneath the veneer of your quotidian existence. It's crescendo amplified with every moment you choose stillness over momentum, contemplation over creation. This is the very essence of unrealized potential, the chilling tableau of encountering the person you were destined to become, only to find them a stranger forged by your own inertia. Consider it thus. Envision a visionary inventor, years spent meticulously sketching designs, conjuring revolutionary contraptions, filling countless notebooks with ingenious concepts. They speak of their innovations, they paint vivid futures sculpted by their creations. But they never forge a single prototype. They never grasp a tool. They never brave the risk of a faulty circuit or a misaligned gear. Their potential remains immured, an exquisite, intricate blueprint succumbing to dust. Is this inventor successful? Does their potential radiate? It is a miracle squandered. Their unfulfilled potential is a phantom, forever haunting the spectral halls of what might have been. This lies at the heart of the matter. Potential is no passive endowment. It is a slumbering force demanding its awakening. It is the spark that requires the friction of action to ignite. Absent the active engagement of doing, the seed of potential will not germinate. It will simply desiccate. And the weight of that withered seed, the poignant regret of its unbloomed glory, becomes the most formidable burden of all. It is the silent shriek of the life you never permitted to inhale. The paramount adversary of action is not a deficiency in skill, nor a scarcity of opportunity, nor even an adversarial environment. It is inertia. Inertia is the unseen warden that holds you captive, the gravitational allure of comfort, and the dread of the unknown. It whispers insidious doubts. What if I falter? What will others surmise? It is too arduous. I am unready. These are the fetters that bind your potential, the specious justifications that keep the seed entombed, forever denied the sun's embrace. But herein lies the revelation. Action is the most potent bulwark against this inertia. The very act of doing, however diminutive, however flawed, initiates the dissolution of the spell. When you embark upon that initial step, you are not merely propelling your physique, you are reconfiguring your inner topography. You are signaling to yourself and to the cosmos your readiness to attempt. You are inaugurating a ripple across the stagnant expanse of your inaction. Contemplate the simple gesture of transcribing a solitary sentence that embodies your aspiration. It feels inconsequential, does it not? Yet it is an action. It is a palpable manifestation of your intent. It is a minute fissure in the formidable edifice of your apprehension. The subsequent day you might inscribe another sentence. And then yet another. Each sentence, each word, is a strike against inertia. Each progression, however slight, accrues momentum. You begin to harbor the nascent belief that, perhaps, just perhaps, you can achieve this. This is how you recalibrate your psyche, not to be subjugated by fear, but to be guided by purpose. This is how you reclaim dominion, not by eradicating obstacles, but by advancing in their presence. Herein lies the confluence of discipline and sacrifice. Genuine action is seldom a comfortable endeavor. It is the unwavering, dedicated exertion you commit, even when your mind clamors for respite, for diversion, for the path of least resistance. Discipline is the engine that propels consistent action. It is the covenant to present oneself, day after day, to undertake the requisite labor, irrespective of your prevailing sentiment. It is the conscious election to prioritize your long-term cultivation over your immediate gratification. And sacrifice? Sacrifice is the toll for admission into the dominion of accomplishment. It is the relinquishment of something of present value for something of even greater future worth. It may entail forsaking nocturnal revelries for diurnal endeavors, abandoning aimless digital perusal for focused scholarly pursuit, or foregoing ephemeral pleasures for the enduring contentment of creation. This is not an embrace of masochism. It is an understanding that the most coveted attainments often demand the most strenuous effort, the most profound dedication, and the most profound willingness to disengage from the trivial. It is within these junctures of disciplined exertion and willing sacrifice that your raw potential begins to coalesce, to assume form, to transmute into something palpable and concrete. You are not merely dreaming, you are constructing. You are not merely hoping, you are becoming. A multitude subsists in a state of perpetual paralysis, ensnared by the dread of failure. They perceive the specter of misstep, of falling short, and conclude that abstaining from endeavor is the safer recourse. But this is a profound delusion. The authentic peril, the ultimate cost, resides not in attempting and failing. The true cost is the bill for not trying. This debt is rendered in the currency of regret, an interest-accruing obligation that spans a lifetime. It is the gnawing disquiet of knowing you possessed more to contribute, more to evolve into, and you allowed it to dissipate. Reflect upon this. If you endeavor to cultivate that oak, and a tempest descends, splintering it asunder, you are left with a fractured sapling. It inflicts pain undeniably, but you possess the experience of planting, of nurturing, of witnessing its transient ascent. You learned, you matured, you honored the seed. Now, conceive of never planting it at all. The seed remains sequestered in its packet, untouched. Years hence, you might behold a magnificent oak and muse, that could have been me. The agony of that forfeited opportunity, of that unlived existence, is infinitely more acute, infinitely more enduring than the pang of a broken sapling. The very act of striving, even when it culminates in what we categorize as failure, is a profound affirmation of self-regard. It is a pronouncement that your aspirations, your capacities, your potential, merit the exertion. It is an investment in yourself, an investment that invariably yields returns, even if those returns are not immediately discernible. The erudition gleaned from striving, the resilience forged from surmounting setbacks, the sheer exultation of having dared to enter the arena, these are treasures beyond measure. They are the genuine riches, far more precious than the avoidance of a hypothetical defeat. Thus, how does the act of embarking upon even a modest, imperfect step fundamentally reconfigure your internal milieu? It transmutes your identity. You cease to perceive yourself as an individual who possesses potential and begin to see yourself as one who acts upon their potential. You transition from a passive observer of your own narrative to an active protagonist. This elemental shift in perspective is revolutionary. It replenishes your self-belief. It engenders a feedback loop. Action begets confidence, confidence fuels further action, and that action solidifies your conviction. The apprehension that once rendered you immobile begins to recede, supplanted by the quiet hum of self-efficacy. You commence to apprehend that you are defined not by your potential, but by your choices, by your willingness to engage with that potential. What are the specific psychological mechanisms that imbue inertia with such formidable potency? It is an intricate choreography of our brain's predilection for comfort and aversion to perceived threats. Our neural architecture is predisposed to energy conservation, and action frequently necessitates a greater expenditure of energy than inaction. Furthermore, the dread of social censure, the anxiety of failing to meet expectations, and the inherent uncertainty of outcomes all activate our threat response system. This can precipitate overthinking, procrastination, and ultimately, paralysis. Action directly counteracts these mechanisms. The physical act of movement, of engagement, overrides the mental loops of fear and doubt. Each successful step, regardless of its magnitude, yields a reward, a release of dopamine, a sense of achievement. That conditions your brain to associate action with positive consequences, thereby facilitating subsequent action. It cultivates what psychologists term self-efficacy, the conviction in one's own capacity to succeed in specific circumstances or to accomplish a task. Beyond the immediate result, the enduring, cumulative advantages of a life characterized by consistent, disciplined action are incalculable. You amass a reservoir of resilience. You hone problem-solving acumen through perpetual engagement. You forge a chronicle of achievements, however modest, that bolsters your confidence and ambition. You inhabit a profound sense of purpose, cognizant that you are actively shaping your existence and contributing to the broader world. Contrast this with a life of passive contemplation. You may harbor myriad brilliant notions, but without action, they remain precisely that, notions. The potential for regret, for the haunting query of what if, becomes an unwavering companion. You may feel insulated from failure, but you are also deprived of the profound satisfaction of accomplishment, the growth that emanates from struggle, and the deep fulfillment of inhabiting a life congruent with your capabilities. The power of action is indisputable, a force that animates the inert potential residing within us. Yet, this power is not an inexhaustible font. It demands direction, a lucid comprehension of towards what we are acting. Absent this clarity, even the most vigorous action can lead us astray, leaving us depleted yet no nearer to our authentic selves. This brings us to the pivotal inquiry: how do we discern the correct path upon which to act, the aspirations that are genuinely ours to pursue? 3. Discipline as a key to success. Potential. The word itself hums with latent energy, a whisper of what might be, of what could be achieved. It is the architect's nascent vision for a soaring edifice, the composer's silent symphony awaiting its notes, the runner's unleashed speed. It is a tantalizing promise of greatness. Yet, the stark reality is that potential, in isolation, is a phantom, a specter haunting the periphery of our lives, a constant, knowing reminder of what remains unrealized. It is the crushing weight of an unlived existence, a suffocating, silent torment. How, then, do we escape this self-imposed purgatory? How do we translate that ethereal blueprint into tangible form, into something robust and enduring, something that stands unyielding against the corrosive tide of regret? The answer is not found in a miraculous panacea or a stroke of sheer luck. It is far more elemental and infinitely more potent. It is called discipline. Envision discipline as the indispensable bridge. On one shore lies your potential vast, brimming with possibility. On the other rests your reality, the tangible achievements, the person you have become. Without this bridge, you are condemned to gaze across the chasm, forever yearning for the other side. Discipline is the tireless crew, the meticulous engineers, the dedicated laborers who construct this bridge, plank by painstaking plank, day by arduous day. It is the deliberate, unwavering commitment to the task, even when the heart falters, even when the siren call of the couch is irresistible, even when the insidious whisper of failure sows seeds of doubt. This is the precipice where so many falter. They await the capricious lightning strike of motivation, that electrifying surge of inspiration that heralds, now is the moment. But motivation is a fickle paramour. It arrives on its own whim and departs with equal haste. It is akin to waiting for the perfect wave to carry you to shore. You might wait an eternity. To depend on motivation is to build your life's edifice on shifting sands. When the inevitable tides of existence surge, and they always do, your structure will crumble. Discipline, conversely, is the act of anchoring your foundation in solid rock. It is the cultivation of habits. Habits are the automatic pilot of our actions, propelling us forward even when spirits flag. Brushing your teeth is a habit. You do not wait for a surge of motivation. You simply perform the act because it is ingrained in your routine. Discipline is the conscious endeavor to forge such routines for your loftiest aspirations. It is the commitment to write for an hour each morning, not because inspiration beckons, but because you have decreed it so. It is the resolve to frequent the gym thrice weekly, not from a sudden ardor for exertion, but from a profound commitment. These consistent, often unglamorous, actions are the very bricks that construct your bridge. They are the quiet, relentless engine that transforms the spectral whisper of potential into a vibrant, breathing reality. The concept of doing things when they don't always want to lies at the very core of discipline. It is the conscious decision to align one's actions with long-term objectives, even when immediate desires tug in opposing directions. It is the potent antidote to the insidious creeping of "I'll do it tomorrow," the very language of unrealized potential. Tomorrow is an illusion, a mirage that never materializes. The only temporal dominion we possess is the present, and discipline is the instrument that empowers us to act within this present for the enduring benefit of our future selves. This disciplined pursuit of goals invariably entails an element that may seem unappealing: hardship. Yet, here lies a crucial revelation. True growth, and consequently, true success, is forged in the crucible of voluntary discomfort. Discipline is not about orchestrating an effortless existence. It is about cultivating resilience. It is about willingly confronting challenges, about pushing beyond perceived limitations. The notion that true growth and mental strength are forged through suffering and voluntary hardship is not an exhortation to court pain for its own sake, but a profound understanding that the path to becoming one's optimal self is rarely smooth. It demands exertion. It necessitates pushing oneself when rest beckons. It requires confronting that which feels arduous. Discipline is the active, deliberate choice to embrace this discomfort. It is the selection of the more arduous, yet ultimately more rewarding, path. It is the willingness to pay the bill for not trying, the bill of regret, the bill of missed opportunities, the bill of casting a retrospective gaze upon the specter of what might have been. When you choose discipline, you elect to pay the price of effort now, thereby averting the infinitely steeper cost of regret later. This is how the weight of potential undergoes a metamorphosis. It transforms from a burdensome anchor dragging you down into a potent source of power, a wellspring of strength that you actively tap. And with discipline arrives sacrifice. They are inextricably linked. To construct that bridge, to forge that strength, choices must be made. And choices invariably entail relinquishing something. You may need to trade late nights scrolling through digital distractions for early mornings dedicated to honing your craft. You may need to forego the immediate gratification of a sugary indulgence for the sustained energy and health that fuels your ambitions. You may need to relinquish the comfort of familiar surroundings to pursue a dream that necessitates relocation. However, here resides the critical distinction. Sacrifice undertaken in the name of discipline is not a loss. It is a strategic investment. It is a calculated exchange. You surrender something minor and ephemeral for something immeasurably grander and enduring. It is the admission fee for unlocking the vast potential within. The observation that sacrifice and obsession with goals are necessary is not a call to recklessness, but a recognition that achieving something truly significant, something that honors your deepest potential, will invariably require letting go of distractions and impediments. You are exchanging the trivial for the profound. Consider the intertwined narratives of Anya and Leo. Both emerged from the same tranquil locale, both exhibiting an early predilection for music. Anya possessed a natural grace at the piano, her fingers gliding across the keys with an effortless fluidity. Leo, while not endowed with the same innate talent, harbored a fervent aspiration to compose. Anya, basking in the adulation for her performances, found contentment in rendering the works of others. She relished the applause, the immediate validation. She felt no compulsion to venture beyond what came easily. Her potential served as a comfortable, yielding cushion. Leo, however, was possessed by a restless creative spirit. He understood that his pianistic prowess was not preeminent, but he heard symphonies in his mind, intricate harmonies yearning for expression. He perceived his potential not merely as a performer, but as a creator. This vision demanded more than mere execution. It necessitated rigorous study, relentless practice, and unending revision. He disciplined himself to master music theory, to dedicate hours hunched over his manuscript, sketching out notes, obliterating them, and commencing anew. He sacrificed evenings spent in convivial company for solitary hours wrestling with musical concepts. He sacrificed the immediate satisfaction of playing a beautiful melody for the arduous, often frustrating, labor of composing one. By their early 20s, Anya had attained renown as a beloved local musician, a crowd pleaser reliably delivering familiar favorites with exquisite skill. She had actualized a facet of her potential, the aspect that yielded immediate comfort and recognition. She commanded respect, yet her music seldom offered novel emotional resonance. She had cultivated a pleasant existence, but the deeper, more demanding dimensions of her musical soul remained dormant. Leo, conversely, remained largely unknown. He had endured countless rejections. His compositions were often intricate, demanding, and not always immediately accessible. Yet, he had meticulously constructed his bridge. He had disciplined himself through years of sacrifice and voluntary hardship. He had learned to place faith in his inner vision, to persevere even when motivation wavered, and even when the music itself presented itself as an intractable, unyielding puzzle. One fateful day, a distinguished conductor encountered one of Leo's nascent, unpolished works. He discerned the struggle, the ardor, the sheer force of will infused into every note. He recognized not merely a composer, but a master craftsman who had meticulously honed his talent through unremitting dedication. Leo's potential, once a fragile seed, had finally blossomed into a magnificent, singular creation, a testament to the transformative power of discipline. Anya, upon hearing Leo's symphony years later, experienced a pang of an indefinable emotion. It was the reverberation of her own unlived life, the phantom echo of the composer she could have become had she chosen the bridge of discipline over the solace of her potential cushion. How does this unwavering practice of discipline, even in the minutiae of seemingly insignificant daily actions, directly counteract the inertia that breeds unfulfilled potential? The mechanism is both simple and profound. Inertia is the inherent tendency to remain unchanged, to persist in a state of stasis. Unfulfilled potential represents the ultimate manifestation of inertia. You possess the capacity for movement, for growth, for transformation, yet you remain immobilized. Discipline shatters this cycle by instilling consistent, deliberate motion. Each time you elect to engage in the work to pen that paragraph, to refine that skill, to confront that challenging conversation, you are generating momentum. You are nudging yourself forward. These minor nudges, repeated with daily constancy, coalesce into a formidable force. They are akin to subtle currents that, over time, can alter the course of a mighty river. They prevent the nebulous someday from metastasizing into an eternity of never. They actively oppose the natural inclination towards comfort and security, compelling you to venture beyond your comfort zone and into the fertile terrain of growth. Each disciplined act is a vote cast for your future self, a definitive rejection of passive acceptance of your current limitations. What are the specific psychological mechanisms through which discipline transmutes the weight of potential from a source of anxiety into a potent catalyst for action and achievement? Discipline operates upon our psyche through several powerful avenues. Foremost, it recalibrates our locus of control. When we defer to external factors, chance, innate talent, or the elusive right moment, we relinquish our agency, feeling powerless. Discipline places us firmly in the driver's seat. It asserts, "I am the architect of this outcome." This profound sense of agency is exceptionally potent and directly combats the anxiety that stems from feeling overwhelmed by one's own potential. Secondly, discipline cultivates self-efficacy. With each successfully executed disciplined task, you furnish irrefutable proof to yourself of your capability. You incrementally build confidence in your ability to persevere and complete what you begin. This escalating self-efficacy renders even more formidable challenges less daunting. The weight of potential begins to feel less like an insurmountable mountain and more like a series of manageable ascents, for which you are increasingly well equipped. Thirdly, discipline aids in navigating our relationship with discomfort. Our brains are inherently wired to pursue pleasure and evade pain. This primal inclination can lead us to eschew anything that feels difficult, including the very labor required to realize our potential. Discipline, through consistent application, retrains this neural wiring. It teaches us that discomfort is often transient and that the rewards reaped from pushing through far exceed the fleeting relief of avoidance. We learn to tolerate, and indeed, to embrace, the struggle as an integral component of the process. This reconditioning is paramount to transforming the anxiety of potential into the driving force of achievement. Discipline, therefore, is not an act of restriction, it is an act of liberation. It is the conscious endeavor to forge the instruments and the resolve necessary to sculpt our potential into a palpable reality, thereby averting the silent dread of an unlived existence. It is the engine that propels us across the bridge from what we could be to who we will become. Yet, this disciplined pursuit necessitates a lucid vision, a compass to guide our endeavors, which naturally leads us to the pivotal next juncture, comprehending the power of purpose. 4. Consistency and sacrifice. The grand aspirations that stir within us, the hushed intimations of our latent capabilities, are far more than mere phantoms of thought. They are a formidable energy, a ceaseless resonance beneath the veneer of our existence. Yet, this potent force, this unmanifested potential, transmutes into an oppressive encumbrance when we demur from action. It is akin to bearing a treasure chest that remains forever sealed, its weight a perpetual testament to riches we steadfastly refuse to claim. And what constitutes the most crushing facet of that burden? It is the profound, unyielding ache that emanates from the stark awareness that we could have achieved more, could have become more, had we but embraced the fundamental, often uncelebrated, truths of bringing endeavors to fruition. We are ceaselessly assailed by narratives of meteoric success, of serendipitous turns of fortune and sudden renown. We fixate upon the polished finality of the outcome, overlooking the arduous, often invisible, crucible of its creation. This is a perilous illusion. No significant accomplishment, no enduring impact, has ever materialized ex nihilo. Every monumental work, every life irrevocably transformed, is painstakingly constructed, stone by arduous stone. It is forged in the quiet constancy of sustained effort, in the myriad of minute actions undertaken when unobserved, and, most critically, when the inclination to act is at its nadir. Reflect upon it. Did the marathon runner awaken one morning and spontaneously traverse 26.2 miles? Assuredly not. They awoke, day after relentless day, to don their footwear, to confront the familiar ache in their musculature, the biting chill in the atmosphere, and they ran, even when their spirit faltered, even when their physiology cried out for respite. That, in essence, is consistency. It is the unwavering, unyielding commitment to presence, to the diligent execution of the task, not as a consequence of a lightning strike of inspiration, but because the objective unequivocally demanded it. This is the bedrock. This is the chasm that distinguishes those who merely harbor dreams from those who actualize them. And what, pray tell, fuels this inexorable consistency? It is sacrifice. We often conceive of sacrifice as the relinquishment of something desirable for something detrimental, a lamentable forfeiture. However, in the pursuit of realizing one's potential, sacrifice transcends mere loss. It is an investment. It is the judicious decision to divest oneself of lesser pursuits in favor of loftier objectives. It is the profound understanding that time frittered away scrolling through ephemeral feeds could be meticulously invested in acquiring a new proficiency. It is the recognition that an additional hour of slumber might equate to the forfeiture of a critical juncture in the construction of one's aspirations. It is the conscious choice to decline a transient gratification to unequivocally affirm enduring fulfillment. This is not an exercise in self-flagellation. It is a strategic allocation of resources. It is the keen discernment that your time, your energy, your focus, these are your most precious commodities. And to construct something of genuine import, one must possess the volition to expend them judiciously. One must be prepared to exchange immediate ease for ultimate triumph. One must be willing to be consumed by one's objectives, allowing them to orchestrate one's daily decisions, even when those decisions are fraught with difficulty. It is here that discipline emerges, not as an iron-fisted overlord, but as your most steadfast confederate. Motivation is an ephemeral companion. It graces us with its presence when excitement surges, when the skies are clear, when a wave of energy washes over us. Yet, motivation frequently absconds when the terrain becomes arduous, when the initial fervor dissipates, when the sheer arduousness of the endeavor sets in. Discipline, conversely, is the unyielding force that propels you forward even when motivation has long since departed. It is the internal imperative that declares, you have embarked upon this journey, and you shall see it to its conclusion. It is the deliberate act of aligning oneself with one's long-term vision, eschewing the caprice of fleeting emotions. Discipline reigns supreme over motivation because it comprehends that true advancement is not predicated upon the ephemeral peaks of inspiration, but upon the steady cadence of commitment. It is the quiet fortitude that empowers you to surmount resistance, to undertake that which is incumbent, even when every Fiber of your being yearns for an alternative course. Consider the narrative of Anya, a woman whose intellect shimmered with a kaleidoscope of ideas. She harbored the ambition of conceiving a groundbreaking application designed to empower individuals in managing their financial affairs with greater efficacy. She possessed the vision, the acumen, and the initial effervescence. However, the stark realities of application development soon materialized. It necessitated nocturnal vigils dedicated to mastering intricate coding languages, pre-dawn research into market dynamics, and an interminable duration spent refining user interfaces. Her companions indulged in nocturnal revelries, savoring their weekends, while Anya remained tethered to her computer, grappling with lines of code that stubbornly resisted compliance. She felt the insidious allure of distraction, the seductive siren song of immediate gratification. There were days when the sheer exertion felt overwhelming, when progress appeared agonizingly glacial. It is at this juncture that the oppressive weight of unfulfilled potential begins to exert its pressure. Anya could have readily capitulated, articulating, "This is too formidable. I shall defer it. Perhaps I am not suited for this undertaking." She could have elected the path of least resistance, the path of comfort, the path of instantaneous gratification. She could have allowed her dream to atrophy, permitting her potential to remain a mere thought, a wistful longing, a speculative what-if. Had she done so, the application would have remained an ethereal concept. Her potential would have been a spectral presence, a persistent, dull throb of regret. She would have encountered the Anya who might have forged something extraordinary, and that encounter, in the hushed solitudes of her existence, would have constituted a form of inferno. Yet, Anya did not tread that path. She grasped that her dream demanded more than a fleeting spark of inspiration. It demanded the unwavering luminescence of consistency. She relinquished evenings of social engagement, opting instead for sessions of intensive study. She forfeited leisurely weekends, dedicating them to the meticulous construction and rigorous testing of her creation. She learned to manage her vitality, to accord primacy to her work, even when fatigue held sway. She did not consistently experience motivation, but she was disciplined. She presented herself. She coded. She refined. She persevered. And what was the consequence? Gradually, painstakingly, the application began to coalesce. The lines of code commenced to function harmoniously. The interface evolved into an intuitive instrument. The functionalities she had envisioned sprang into tangible existence. It was not an abrupt eruption of success. It was a deliberate unfolding, a testament to her unyielding dedication. The sacrifices she embraced, the lost evenings, the foregone social engagements, the moments of doubt she resolutely overcame. These were not deprivations. They were the very constituent elements of her achievement. They were the currency she paid to manifest her potential into tangible reality. The absence of this consistent exertion and deliberate sacrifice directly contributes to the crushing burden of unfulfilled potential. When we fail to act, day after day, year after year, our potential does not merely lie dormant, it festers. It metamorphoses into a source of internal discord, a persistent whisper reminding us of our neglect. Each squandered opportunity to practice, to learn, to construct, adds another stratum to that oppressive weight. We are not simply failing to achieve. We are actively cultivating a future harvest of regret. The psychological and emotional toll of repeatedly electing comfort over the disciplined actions requisite for the pursuit of our potential is immense. It erodes our self-assurance. It engenders a profound sense of powerlessness. We profess our inability, when in reality we have not elected to. We become captives of our own inertia, ensnared by the seductive embrace of inaction. This, then, is the essence of the true hell to which the book alludes. It is not the suffering inherent in attempting and failing, but the agonizing realization of never having ventured forth at all, of confronting the individual one might have become had one merely possessed the willingness to undertake the labor, to embrace the sacrifices. It is the spectral echo of one's own capabilities, haunting one with the silent indictment of neglect. Anya's relinquishment of social evenings directly enabled her to acquire the requisite skills and construct the product that would ultimately bestow upon her fulfillment and success. Had she eschewed that sacrifice, had she opted for the more facile path of immediate social engagement over the demanding crucible of creation, her application would likely have remained perpetually unseen. Her potential, a brilliant ember, would have been extinguished by the gentle warmth of comfort, leaving behind only the cold, desolate ashes of regret. The labor of greatness is frequently cloaked in invisibility. It transpires in the hushed hours, in the solitary pursuit of mastery. It is the musician meticulously practicing scales until their digits throb with exertion, the writer drafting and redrafting until the words flow with an exquisite precision, the entrepreneur painstakingly orchestrating every facet of their enterprise. This unseen work, animated by consistency and sacrifice, represents the authentic cost of realizing one's potential. It is the unglamorous, often arduous, yet ultimately profoundly rewarding process that transmutes a latent possibility into a palpable reality. It is the trajectory that leads away from the disquieting specter of what might have been, and towards the profound satisfaction of what one has become. The weight of your potential need not be an encumbrance. It can serve as the very foundation upon which you erect your most magnificent existence, provided you are willing to consistently present yourself and embrace the indispensable sacrifices. Chapter 2. Breaking Free from Limitations. 1. Overcoming Excuses. We all harbor them. They masquerade as sensible counsel, don't they? Like tiny, insidious whispers rationalizing our incapacities, our hesitations, the very impossibility of it all for us. But here lies the stark, unvarnished truth, the one that lodges itself like a cold stone in your deepest core. Excuses are not allies. They are not benevolent guides. They are the master architects of the unlived life. They are the meticulously smoothed pebbles with which you construct the formidable walls of your self-made prison, a penitentiary of unrealized potential. Reflect upon this. Each time you utter, "I lack the time," what unspoken pact are you forging? You are consenting to the unfettered dissipation of your moments, uninvested and unredeemed. You are implicitly declaring that your current commitments, your ingrained habits, hold greater sway than the nascent dream stirring within. My talents are insufficient. This is a solemn vow to yourself, a preemptive surrender that forgoes even the nascent pursuit of cultivating that very talent. It is capitulation before the starting gun has even fired. My circumstances are too formidable. This is a pronouncement that the external world wields dominion over your internal landscape, that your resolve is a fragile reed against the tempest of your environment. And the ubiquitous, "It is not my fault." This is the ultimate abdication of agency, a silent confession of victimhood, a declaration of impotence to author your own narrative. These are not mere utterances, they are active choices, the very bedrock upon which the edifice of regret for a life unlived is erected. They are the binding agent that cements you to a perpetual state of what-ifs and if-onlys. We frequently succumb to the illusion that external forces dictate the trajectory of our lives. We cast blame upon our upbringing, our locale, the caprice of the weather, the vagaries of the economy, the individuals who populate our sphere. We articulate sentiments such as, "I would have accomplished X, had Y not transpired." And indeed, these elements exist. Life is rarely a placid stream. Some are granted advantageous starting positions, while others contend with formidable headwinds. Yet, it is precisely here that the seductive illusion of external control ensnares us. While these external factors possess undeniable reality, they are not the ultimate arbiters of your destiny. Your response to them is. The choices you make and how you react, how you resist, how you adapt, therein lies your authentic power. Consider two individuals who emerge from the same challenging milieu, confronting identical scarcities. One perceives the hardship as an insurmountable barrier, a rationale for surrender, a convenient excuse for their perceived inability to transcend their station. They might opine, "There is no opportunity here, so why exert effort?" The other, however, views the identical hardship as a crucible, a catalyst for intensified exertion. They might muse, precisely because circumstances are dire, "I must unearth a viable path. This adversity shall not define me." Who, then, is more likely to break free from their confines? Who is more poised to construct a life imbued with purpose and achievement? It is not the circumstances themselves, but the internal decree to either be crushed by them or to ascend above them. This underscores why excuses predicated on one's environment or upbringing must be expunged in favor of personal accountability. Your internal transformation is the indispensable inaugural step. Until you assume ownership, you remain a passive passenger in your own existence, buffeted by the unpredictable currents of external forces. This leads us to a query capable of shattering the very foundation of any excuse: why not you? If you observe another person attaining something you covet, and your immediate inclination is to rationalize it as luck or a less arduous path, pause, inhale deeply, and then pose the question to yourself: why not me? By what prerogative do they possess the right to pursue their aspirations, to realize their objectives, while you are ostensibly denied? What intrinsic quality do they possess that you believe you lack? More often than not, the answer is simply nothing. They possess the same human capacity for exertion, for learning, for resilience. They simply elected to act. They chose to surmount their own internal hesitations. They elected to disregard the insidious whispers of their own excuses. This "why not you?" inquiry is a potent instrument. It inverts the narrative. Instead of fixating on the perceived deficiencies of the world or your predicament, it compels an inward examination. It challenges your preconceived notions of your own limitations. If another, perhaps with fewer resources or confronting greater impediments, has managed to achieve what you aspire to, then the potential must reside within you. The sole impediment is your internal monologue, the one you have assiduously nourished with excuses. Apply this question to every domain where you find yourself fabricating justifications. I yearn to master the guitar, but I possess no inherent musicality. Why not you? I aspire to launch my own enterprise, but I lack the requisite capital. Why not you? I desire a healthier existence, but I abhor physical exertion. Why not you? This is not an exercise in hubris. It is a recognition of your inherent worth and capability. Now, let us address the specter of risk. We are frequently so paralyzed by the apprehension of attempting, of potentially failing, that we opt for the perceived safety of fabricating excuses. We reassure ourselves that remaining inert, that refraining from action, constitutes the less perilous course. However, this is a perilous delusion. The most profound risk lies in the complete absence of endeavor. The cost of inaction far eclipses the risk of attempting and falling short. Contemplate a vessel. A ship is most secure within the confines of its harbor. Moored to the dock, it will remain impervious to the ravages of storms, unblemished by collisions with other craft, and immune to submersion. Yet, it will never glimpse unfamiliar shores, never navigate uncharted oceans, never fulfill its inherent purpose as a vessel destined for exploration. Its potential remains irrevocably confined within the harbor's embrace. Your life is that ship. When you elect excuses over decisive action, you are opting for the harbor. You are choosing security, undeniably, but you are also choosing stagnation. You are opting to guarantee that you will never attain your full potential. The risk of endeavor and subsequent failure is a transient setback, a valuable learning experience. You may sustain injury, you may endure embarrassment, but you will have acquired knowledge. You will have undergone growth. But the risk of non-action? That represents a slow, insidious erosion of the spirit. It is the guaranteed outcome of an unlived life, the ultimate lament of encountering the person you might have become, had you dared to set sail. The price of inaction is the gradual decay of your aspirations, the quiet despair of knowing you never even afforded yourself a single opportunity. This is where discipline emerges as your most formidable ally. Excuses flourish in the vacuum of discipline. They represent the path of least resistance, the facile escape. Discipline, conversely, is the conscious, daily volition to perform that which is necessary, irrespective of one's inclination. Greatness, true fulfillment, does not spring from a sudden efflorescence of talent or a fleeting surge of motivation. It is born from discipline and unwavering consistency. Motivation is an ephemeral companion. It arrives and departs. Discipline is a steadfast confidante. It is present when you require it most. It is the engine that propels you through those moments when your excuses are clamoring most insistently. Consider those individuals you hold in high regard. The athletes who push their physical limits to the extreme, the artists who dedicate countless hours to refining their craft, the entrepreneurs who labor tirelessly to manifest their visions. Do you imagine they awaken each day imbued with perfect motivation? Do you believe they are immune to fatigue or discouragement? Assuredly not. They possess discipline. They have forged a commitment to their objectives that transcends their transient emotional states. They engage in the work even when their desires falter. This is the direct antidote to excuses. When the impulse to fabricate an excuse arises, counter it with a disciplined action, however minuscule it may seem. Let us delve deeper into the very heart of your excuses. What is the specific underlying fear or comfort-seeking mechanism that fuels your most recurrent justification? This is not an exercise in merely enumerating the excuse itself, but in excavating its subterranean roots. If your excuse is "I lack sufficient experience," what is the true apprehension? Is it the dread of appearing inept? The fear of being perceived as incompetent? The apprehension of the unknown inherent in assuming a new role? If your excuse is "it is too late for me," what solace are you seeking by articulating that sentiment? Perhaps it is the comfort of avoiding the effort, of sidestepping the possibility of failure after years of believing your opportunity has passed. Recognizing this underlying fear is paramount. It is akin to identifying the root of a persistent weed. Once the root is exposed, its eradication becomes more attainable. Without this self-awareness, you are merely trimming the foliage, and the excuse will inevitably re-emerge with greater vigor. Now envision yourself completely shedding the conviction that underpins your most tenacious excuse. Let us posit that your excuse is "I am not intelligent enough to pursue a particular career path." If you could magically obliterate that belief, what would be the immediate, actionable step you would take towards that career? Would you research available courses? Would you initiate contact with an individual in that field for an informational interview? Would you commence perusing literature pertinent to it? And critically, why have you been deferring that specific, uncomplicated action? What internal resistance is at play? Is it the fear of the unknown, the apprehension of the effort involved, or simply the comfort of remaining within your familiar circumscribed boundaries? This exercise compels a transition from abstract realization to concrete engagement. It exposes the tenuous nature of your excuses when confronted with a clearly delineated path forward. Consider the protracted ramifications of perpetuating that excuse. How does the slow, inexorable erosion of your aspirations, the guaranteed stagnation, the knowing regret of an unlived existence, truly compare to the transient discomfort of confronting the challenge head-on? For a moment, truly visualize it. Picture yourself a decade, 2 decades hence. If you persist on this trajectory of excuse-making, what will your life resemble? What will be your emotional landscape? Will you find peace? Or will you be haunted by the specter of the person you might have become? Now imagine confronting the challenge. Yes, it may entail discomfort. You may falter. You may be compelled to exert yourself with an intensity you have never before experienced. But what is the potential reward? A life lived with unreserved fullness, a life imbued with purpose, a life where you can reflect and declare, "I tried. I gave it my utmost." When you truly weigh these two potential futures, the choice becomes unequivocally clear. The ephemeral discomfort of action pales immeasurably against the eternal agony of regret. The trajectory forward is not smoothed by ease. It is meticulously carved through persistent exertion and unwavering dedication. Having recognized excuses as the self-imposed barriers they are, the subsequent indispensable step is to cultivate the internal fortitude requisite for pursuing your aspirations, even when the path is arduous. This necessitates the active embrace of the relentless grind, the daily practice, the consistent effort that engenders momentum and ultimately culminates in the realization of your potential. 2. Ignoring external factors, we habitually cast our gaze outward, seeking the genesis of our dissatisfactions in the world beyond ourselves. The temptation to point an accusing finger at our surroundings is potent. I was passed over for that promotion because my supervisor harbors a personal animosity. Launching my own venture is an impossibility due to insufficient capital. My current employment is a dead end because my alma mater lacked prestige. Such pronouncements resonate with a deceptive familiarity, do they not? They offer a peculiar balm, a bulwark against the stark, unvarnished truth of our own inertia. In attributing our predicaments to external forces, we tacitly declare, "The fault lies not with me." This declaration can bring a fleeting sense of liberation, an escape from the weight of expectation. We console ourselves with the notion that if only the cosmic dice had rolled differently, if only we possess more influential connections, a deeper financial wellspring, a more auspicious past, then, and only then, would our aspirations finally blossom. Yet, here lies the unvarnished, unassailable truth. This relentless pursuit of external justifications is a gilded cage. It is a well-trodden path that invariably leads to the desolate landscape of the unlived life. When our focus remains fixed upon that which lies beyond our dominion, the caprices of others, the vagaries of the economy, the immutable contours of our history, we abdicate our inherent power. We devolve into passive spectators of our own existence, passively awaiting a celestial shift in our favor. This protracted vigil is a subtle, insidious poison. It allows the chasm between who we are and who we might have become to widen inexorably, giving rise to that gnawing discontent, that profound, enduring regret. This, in essence, is the tragedy of unfulfilled potential, the chilling epiphany that the person you were destined to be, the life you were meant to inhabit, has been irrevocably lost because you elected to remain a victim of circumstance, rather than the masterful architect of your own destiny. Reflect upon this. If your triumphs and failures are inextricably bound to forces beyond your purview, what impetus remains for action? Why endure the arduous toil, the profound sacrifice, the unwavering discipline, if the outcome is already preordained by external machinations? You do not. This is precisely how the illusion of external dominion actively manufactures the very limitations we perceive. We do not discover these constraints. We erect them through the architecture of our own thoughts and convictions. The deeply entrenched belief that I cannot due to external impediments morphs into a self-realizing prophecy. The opportune moment evaporates, the chance slips through our grasp, and we nod sagely, murmuring, "See, I told you so. It was never meant to be." This is not an objective assessment of reality, it is a self-inflicted sentence. The psychological ramifications of this ingrained mindset are nothing short of profound. When you embrace an external locus of control that is, the conviction that events are primarily dictated by forces outside yourself, a pervasive sense of helplessness begins to take root. Your motivation dwindles. Why endeavor if your influence on the outcome is negligible? This descent precipitates a vicious cycle of inaction and disillusionment. You find yourself feeling less confident, less capable, and increasingly anxious. The world begins to assume the aspect of a hostile arena, rife with inequitable impediments. This perpetual state of perceived powerlessness and frustration is a direct conduit to the unlived life. It represents the slow attrition of your spirit, the quiet extinguishing of your inner luminescence, all because you have relinquished the reins of your existence to an external entity or force. You are not truly living, you are merely existing, suspended in a state of anticipation for a transformation that may never materialize. The authentic pathway to liberation, to the unearthing of your latent potential, necessitates a radical paradigm shift, the conscious adoption of an internal locus of control. This entails a profound recognition that while external circumstances possess undeniable reality, they are not the ultimate arbiters of your fate. Your response to these circumstances, the very lens through which you perceive them, your deliberate choices, and your decisive actions, are what truly shape your trajectory. Personal metamorphosis serves as the indispensable precursor to external transformation. When you dedicate yourself to self-improvement, to the cultivation of your skills, the fortification of your character, and the unwavering practice of discipline, you acquire genuine agency. You emerge more resilient. You become more resourceful. You develop an enhanced capacity to navigate the very circumstances that once appeared to hold you captive. Consider the narrative of Anya. Anya's formative years unfolded in a milieu where opportunity was a rare commodity. The educational institutions were chronically underfunded, the specter of crime loomed perpetually, and a significant portion of her contemporaries found themselves ensnared in cycles of destitution and despair. By all objective measures, the external forces arrayed against her were formidable. Her family grappled with the exigencies of subsistence, rendering the prospect of higher education a seemingly unattainable fantasy. Many individuals in Anya's predicament might have resigned themselves to their perceived destiny, casting blame upon the systemic inequities, the dearth of resources, the sheer unfairness of it all. Indeed, many did precisely that. But Anya steadfastly refused to permit her circumstances to dictate the boundaries of her existence. Rather than succumbing to an obsession with her deficits, Anya channeled her energies into cultivating what she possessed, a keen intellect and an indomitable spirit. She grasped the fundamental truth that while the quality of her educational environment was beyond her control, the intensity of her scholastic endeavor was entirely within her purview. She devoted countless extra hours to the hallowed halls of the library, avidly devoured every text she could procure, and relentlessly pursued clarification from her instructors. She could not alter her family's financial straits, but she could meticulously manage her own resourcefulness. She undertook a myriad of odd jobs, meticulously saved every meager coin, and mastered the art of temporal management with astonishing efficiency. While others lamented the scarcity of opportunities, Anya proactively engineered her own. She meticulously organized study collectives, volunteered for community initiatives that imparted invaluable new competencies, and actively sought out seasoned mentors capable of providing sagacious guidance. Anya did not ostrich-like ignore the external challenges. She confronted them with clear-eyed acknowledgement. However, she resolutely refused to allow them to become her confinement. She perceived them not as insurmountable fortifications, but as rigorous tests of her mettle. The very adversities she encountered compelled her to cultivate an array of strengths that individuals situated in more privileged circumstances might never have the occasion to develop: extraordinary resilience, incisive problem-solving acumen, and an unshakable work ethic. These were not boons bestowed from without. They were forged from within through the crucible of her own disciplined effort and her unwavering refusal to succumb to the allure of blame. By concentrating her focus on her intrinsic power, Anya did not merely surmount her circumstances, she transmuted them into stepping stones. She ultimately secured a scholarship to university, not because the prevailing system suddenly underwent a transformation towards fairness, but because she rendered herself undeniably deserving of such an opportunity. Her saga stands as a potent testament to the fact that external factors, when viewed through the prism of agency, can serve as catalysts for growth, not as immutable impediments. The unlived life, for Anya, was never a viable prospect because she resolutely prevented her potential from being extinguished by the external world. This, then, is the pivotal realization: external factors are amenable to reframing. A physical disability can serve as a crucible for forging extraordinary mental fortitude and boundless creativity. A deficiency in formal education can ignite an insatiable thirst for self-directed learning and the acquisition of practical wisdom. A challenging upbringing can cultivate profound empathy and an unyielding commitment to alleviating the suffering of others. The specter of the unlived life frequently arises from our failure to harness these very challenges, to perceive them as fertile ground for cultivating unique strengths that can propel us forward. If we confine our vision solely to obstacles, we shall inevitably be arrested by them. If, however, we choose to perceive them as opportunities for profound growth, we shall be impelled forward by them. The individual who achieves remarkable feats in the face of adversity often possesses no inherent magical advantage. Rather, they possess a distinct perspective and the unwavering discipline to act upon it. The toll exacted by blame is stagnation. When you consistently attribute your setbacks to external forces, you inexorably engineer a life characterized by unfulfilled potential. You erect an invisible barrier, preventing yourself from undertaking the requisite actions, from embracing the necessary discipline, from making the sacrifices that are indispensable for achieving anything of genuine worth. You are, in essence, engaging in a perilous gamble with your singular existence, wagering that the external universe will spontaneously align itself with your deepest desires. This is the most hazardous wager of all, for the odds are irrevocably stacked against you, and the guaranteed denouement is profound regret. The risk inherent in attempting, and subsequently faltering due to external factors, is demonstrably less detrimental than the assured failure of never attempting at all, precisely because you have preemptively convinced yourself of its impossibility due to those selfsame factors. The latter represents the ultimate surrender, the abdication of your inherent potential. Thus, how does one practically effectuate a transference of focus from the uncontrollable external milieu to the actionable internal responses, particularly when the prevailing odds appear insurmountably against you? It commences with a deliberate, conscious decision, a daily, perhaps even hourly, reaffirmation of one's commitment to assuming responsibility. When a setback inevitably occurs, your initial impulse may well be to seek out external culprits. Resist this inclination with all your might. Instead, pose these introspective inquiries. What alternative course of action could I have pursued? What invaluable lessons can I glean from this experience? What concrete step can I now implement to advance forward? This is not an exercise in self-recrimination. It is an act of profound self-empowerment. It is the act of recognizing that your internal landscape, your thoughts, your deeply held beliefs, your prevailing attitudes, and your decisive actions possesses an immense, untapped reservoir of power. If you harbor the conviction that you are powerless, you shall indeed be so. Conversely, if you firmly believe in your inherent agency, you will invariably discover it. Commence with the incremental steps. Identify a singular facet of your life where you habitually ascribe causality to external factors. This might pertain to your physical well-being, your financial standing, or a particular interpersonal dynamic. Consciously resolve to concentrate your energies on that which you can influence within that specific domain. If your current fitness level leaves you dissatisfied, eschew pronouncements such as, "I am simply too occupied," or "my genetic predisposition is unfavorable." Instead, direct your attention to the actionable step you can take today. A brief perambulation, the consumption of an increased volume of water, the selection of a more salubrious meal. These modest, yet consistent, actions serve to generate palpable momentum. They provide irrefutable evidence to yourself that you do possess a degree of control, that your earnest efforts do yield tangible results. This deliberate practice cultivates what is recognized as mental fortitude. It is the inherent capacity to persevere in the face of adversity, to rebound with resilience from setbacks, and to maintain an optimistic outlook even when circumstances are undeniably challenging. It does not entail the denial of pain or struggle. Rather, it embodies the conscious choice regarding how one will confront and navigate these experiences. It is the profound understanding that genuine growth and robust mental strength are frequently forged within the crucible of adversity and through voluntary hardship. When you elect to embrace challenges, to extract wisdom from them, and to push resolutely through them, you are not merely overcoming an isolated obstacle, you are actively constructing a more robust, more capable iteration of yourself. The allure of blame is potent because it offers an ostensibly effortless escape. It liberates us from the inherent responsibility that accompanies the pursuit of our aspirations. However, that seemingly easy exit invariably leads to the most arduous of destinations, the true inferno of unfulfilled potential. It is the quiet, persistent, spectral whisper of what if that will invariably haunt your twilight years. It is the phantom of the individual you might have become, gazing back at you with an expression of profound disappointment. While external factors may present themselves as formidable ramparts, the true architect of our limitations is frequently our own internal discourse. By diligently resisting the seductive siren song of blame and embracing the potent force of our own agency, we commence the arduous process of dismantling these self-imposed barriers. Yet, the journey of dismantling constitutes merely the initial phase. The subsequent imperative is to actively construct the life we ardently desire, meticulously, brick by disciplined brick, thereby transforming latent potential into tangible reality. 3. Finding your purpose. The vastness of your potential, that boundless landscape of what you could be, often beckons like a tantalizing promise. Yet, without a compass, without a clearly defined destination, that very expanse can morph into a suffocating prison. This is the fertile ground where the unlived life truly takes root, not from a deficiency in ability, but from a profound lack of direction. When your trajectory is unknown, every step feels aimless, every effort a desperate shot in the dark. This pervasive aimlessness breeds inertia, a comfortable numbness that whispers insidious questions. Why bother? It is this quiet surrender, this passive acquiescence to a life orchestrated by circumstance rather than conscious choice, that marks the precipice of unfulfilled potential's true hell. Consider, in stark contrast, a life imbued with purpose. This is not to suggest a grand, world-altering mission must be conceived from the outset. Rather, it is about possessing a guiding direction. It is about an intrinsic knowing, a deep-seated understanding of what resonates with you, what calls to your soul, what ignites your spirit. This inner compass acts as an indomitable shield against the ceaseless barrage of external opinions, the weight of societal expectations, and the ephemeral whims of emotion. When your purpose is lucid, those emotions that might otherwise destabilize you, fear, doubt, frustration, transmute into mere atmospheric phenomena. You perceive them, you acknowledge them, but they no longer hold the reins of your vessel. Your purpose does. The transcript spoke of mind control and finding one's purpose, and herein lies the profound truth. Purpose is the ultimate form of self-mastery. It is the internal directive that empowers you to transcend the cacophony, to make deliberate choices, and to ensure that your actions, not your fleeting feelings, chart the course of your journey. Absent this anchor, you are adrift, vulnerable to the capricious currents of chance and the transient judgments of others, forever a mere passenger in the unfolding narrative of your own existence. This, then, it is how the absence of a clearly defined purpose, even when endowed with immense potential, inexorably leads to the true hell of an unlived life. You possess the capacity for so much, yet achieve so little, for want of a compelling imperative, an inner mandate, to do otherwise. The ensuing regret then becomes not merely about what you failed to achieve, but about the very you failed to become. The transcript also illuminated a pivotal insight. Personal change is the prerequisite for external change. This is far more than a pithy aphorism. It is the very bedrock of authentic transformation. And what constitutes the most fundamental, the most potent personal change one can undergo? It is the profound shift from being a mere product of one's environment to becoming the deliberate architect of one's destiny. This metamorphosis commences with the discovery of one's purpose. Purpose is not something stumbled upon through serendipitous fortune or a sudden stroke of luck. It is not dictated by one's upbringing, one's profession, or the pronouncements of neighbors. These are external variables, inherently fickle and unreliable. True purpose is an internal excavation. It necessitates the silencing of the external world, the seeking of moments of profound stillness where one's authentic voice can finally be heard. Envision it as tuning into a hidden radio frequency, one broadcasting your deepest desires, your innate talents, and the unique contribution only you can offer. This introspection, this attunement to your inner resonance is not a luxury, it is an imperative. It is the act of unearthing the buried gold within rather than passively awaiting its bestowal. To attribute a lack of purpose to one's environment or upbringing is a convenient rationalization, a tether that binds you to the very limitations you yearn to transcend. The power to define your path, to choose your direction, resides not in altering your circumstances, but in transforming your internal landscape. Finding your purpose is the initial internal metamorphosis that liberates your capacity to break free from constraint. It is the moment you declare yourself no longer a passive observer of your life, but an active participant, propelled by an inner fire. Once this inner calling, this nascent spark of purpose, is identified, a remarkable phenomenon occurs. It naturally ignites a potent desire for action. Here, the book's core tenets of discipline and sacrifice evolve from abstract concepts into indispensable tools. Your purpose becomes the why that renders the how not only possible but imperative. It is the force that compels you to rise when the allure of repose is strongest, to push through fatigue, when your body cries out for rest, to confront the inevitable challenges that lie in wait. Dreams, as the transcript rightly posited, necessitate action, and purpose is the engine that propels that action. It provides the motivation to embrace hardship and voluntary sacrifice, not as punitive measures, but as the essential stepping stones on the path to your chosen destination. Consider the athlete dedicating themselves to Olympic glory. They do not relish every grueling training session, every pre-dawn awakening, every moment of physical agony. Yet, they endure it because their purpose, to compete at the pinnacle of their sport, to achieve their ultimate performance, eclipses their desire for comfort. This is the very essence of purposeful pursuit. It is the profound understanding that the trajectory toward realizing one's potential is seldom smooth or effortless. It demands unwavering commitment, steadfast consistency, and a willingness to undertake actions that may not always be desirable, all for a reason that transcends immediate gratification. Your purpose serves as the ultimate justification for the effort, the sacrifice, and the discipline required to liberate yourself from the confines of your unlived life. And this leads us to the most potent question, the one that challenges complacency and fuels ambition. Why not you? This is the very spirit of purposeful pursuit. It is a direct repudiation of the notion that your dreams are too grand, your aspirations too audacious, or your potential too immense to be actualized. It is the courageous act of stepping forward and claiming your inherent right to pursue that which sets your soul ablaze. The greatest risk in life is not in trying, not in failing, but in the perpetual absence of the courage to commence. Discovering and pursuing your purpose is the antidote to that paralyzing fear. It is the declaration that you are capable, that your aspirations are valid, and that you possess the power to sculpt your own destiny. It is about gazing upon the vast expanse of your potential and proclaiming, "Yes, I can, and I will." This is where you confront the unlived life head-on. You refuse to allow your potential to remain a haunting specter of what might have been. You choose to engage, to strive, to become the person you were intrinsically meant to be. This is a choice that demands courage, conviction, and a deep-seated belief in your own inherent worth and capacity. The journey of discovering your purpose is, in essence, the journey of uncovering your own power, and the pursuit of that purpose is the ultimate act of self-actualization, a resounding counter-argument to the passive acceptance of an unlived life. So, how does the absence of a clearly defined purpose, even when one possesses immense potential, lead to the true hell of an unlived life? Imagine a magnificent vessel, meticulously crafted from the finest materials, capable of traversing vast oceans, its powerful engine poised to unleash its might. Yet, it remains moored in the harbor, devoid of a captain, lacking charts, and without a destination. Its potential is undeniable, yet it stands as a monument to inaction, slowly succumbing to dust and rust. This is the individual with unfulfilled potential and no guiding purpose. They possess the capabilities, the talents, the raw material of greatness, but without a guiding principle, without a clear why. These latent abilities lie dormant. They become susceptible to the whims of the tide, pulled by external forces, never truly charting their own independent course. The transcript's emphasis on inaction and regret resonates profoundly here. When your destination is unknown, inaction becomes an easy refuge. It is simpler to drift than to steer. And as the days meld into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, that dormant potential transforms into a wellspring of gnawing dissatisfaction. You witness others sailing resolutely towards their horizons, while you remain anchored, a silent testament to what might have been. The regret then transcends mere missed opportunities. It is the profound, soul-deep ache of encountering the person you could have become had you only dared to define your path and, crucially, to tread it. This, then, is the hell of the unlived life, the persistent, quiet whisper of your own untapped greatness, forever just beyond reach because you never imparted a direction for it to aim for. Given the transcript's assertion that personal change is the prerequisite for external change, how can the discovery of one's purpose be framed as the initial internal shift that unlocks the capacity to break free from limitations? Envision it thus: your limitations, be they self-doubt, the specter of failure, or the ingrained belief of inadequacy, are akin to heavy chains. You may struggle against them, you may attempt to shatter them through sheer force, yet they remain stubbornly in place. As long as your internal framework remains unaltered, finding your purpose is the act of forging a key. This key, however, does not unlock external shackles. It unlocks the internal mechanism that perpetuates their hold. When you unearth your purpose, you acquire a potent internal motivation that transcends the mere pursuit of comfort and security. This motivation bestows upon you the strength and the clarity to desire liberation. It redirects your focus from the limitations themselves to the exhilarating possibilities that lie beyond them. Your purpose becomes the compelling rationale for confronting your fears, for challenging your limiting beliefs, and for taking the necessary, albeit perhaps small, steps toward your aspirations. It is the internal reorientation that declares, I am no longer defined by that which holds me back. I am defined by that towards which I am moving. This internal recalibration is the fundamental personal change. It reshapes your perception, reorders your priorities, and galvanizes your willingness to act. Once this internal transformation occurs, the external changes, shedding old habits, embracing new opportunities, and surmounting obstacles, become not merely possible but virtually inevitable. Your purpose provides the internal momentum that renders external metamorphosis achievable. Once purpose is illuminated, the path forward clarifies, though not necessarily simplifies. The true challenge now resides not in discerning the destination, but in the relentless, often arduous, journey of arrival. This brings us to the indispensable tools required for such an expedition: the unwavering commitment to discipline and the courage to embrace sacrifice. 4. Controlling your mind, the world you perceive, the life you navigate, the boundaries you feel. These are not immutable decrees etched by destiny or circumstance. More often than not, they are canvases painted by the subtle, yet powerful, strokes of your own consciousness. Reflect upon this. When confronted with a challenge, what is the initial surge? Before a single step is taken, before a strategy is even contemplated, your mind is already engaged. It murmurs doubts, conjures specters of fear, and sketches a panorama of potential missteps. This internal discourse, this ceaseless current of thoughts and sentiments, is the true architect of your lived reality. External conditions? They are but the raw materials. How you interpret them, how you respond to them, how you elect to engage with them, this is entirely dictated by the inner voice you permit to guide. This is precisely why the governance of your mind is not merely a beneficial suggestion, it is the fundamental bedrock upon which liberation from your self-imposed limitations is built. It is the paramount, indispensable step in averting the gnawing lament of a life unfulfilled. If your mind is a runaway locomotive, propelled by apprehension and uncertainty, it will inevitably derail your trajectory toward your innate potential. Yet, if you master the art of steering that engine, of directing its formidable power, you can carve a path through any impediment. Consider the profound divergence between an individual who gazes upon a formidable incline and immediately declares, I cannot surmount that, and another who beholds the identical ascent and resolves, this will demand effort, but how can I dissect it into manageable phases? What resources will I require? The incline itself remains unaltered. The physical exertion may be comparable, but the outcome entirely disparate. The former, ensnared by their own cogitations, never embarks on the endeavor. They remain at the base, their gaze fixed upward, their potential to reach the summit irrevocably imprisoned by their own internal decree. This represents the insidious, devastating snare of unrealized potential, the chasm between what you were capable of achieving and what you permitted your mind to convince you is unattainable. It is here that the transcript's insistence on governing one's thoughts and eschewing the dominion of emotions over actions assumes such critical importance. We are undoubtedly sentient beings. However, we are not subservient to our emotional states. When we surrender the reins of our existence to feelings such as fear, anxiety, or discouragement, we are effectively entrusting our journey to a capricious, often unreliable, passenger. Motivation, for instance, is a magnificent sensation. It is akin to a burst of sunlight piercing through a cloudy sky. But sunlight, by its nature, is transient. What transpires when the clouds reconvene? If your actions are solely contingent upon the presence of motivation, you will find yourself paralyzed, awaiting the sun's reappearance, while your potential languishes in the shadows. Discipline, conversely, is the steadfast hand upon the helm. It is the unwavering commitment to persist in the journey, irrespective of inclement weather, of arduous terrain, or of the potent yearning to be elsewhere. It is the practice of undertaking those actions you recognize as necessary, those that propel you closer to your objectives, not out of an emotional imperative, but as a consequence of a deliberate choice to act. The transcript articulates this with potent clarity. Undertaking tasks even when the inclination is absent encapsulates the very essence of discipline. It is the quiet fortitude that declares, "My feelings are ephemeral, but my aspirations are paramount. I shall act." This is the methodology through which we commence the dismantling of limitations that feel so palpable, so insurmountable. They frequently originate from the narratives we construct for ourselves. I lack sufficient intellect. I am not connected to the right individuals. It is too late for me. These are not objective verities. They are self-authored fictions. They are the voices of apprehension and doubt, amplified by the echo chamber of our own minds. By consciously electing to confront these thoughts, by supplanting them with more empowering convictions, we initiate the process of rewriting our own saga. How, then, does one commence this transformative undertaking? It begins with attentive listening, a profound, unadulterated listening. The transcript underscores the significance of dedicating quietude for introspection, attuning to one's inner voice, and discerning one's purpose. In our clamorous, hyper-connected epoch, we are perpetually assailed by external diversions. We seldom carve out sanctuaries of solitude, moments to simply exist in our own company, to tune into the subtle murmurs of our internal landscape. It is within these nascent spaces that the genuine work commences. Envision yourself seated in a tranquil chamber, devoid of technological distractions, of external demands upon your focus. What do you perceive? Initially, it may be a cacophony of anxieties, of unfinished tasks, of lingering regrets. Yet, if you persevere, if you gently guide your awareness back to the present instant, you will begin to discern something more profound. You will start to perceive the quiet resonance of your own desires, the gentle inclination of your authentic aspirations, the core values that genuinely hold significance for you. This is your inner voice, your intuition, the compass that can guide you toward the realization of your potential. This practice of introspection is not an indulgence in self-absorption. It is an endeavor to attain lucidity. It is an exploration aimed at comprehending the genesis of your limitations. Are your rationalizations concerning your environment or upbringing truly the impediments, or are they merely convenient cloaks for your apprehension of attempting? The transcript highlights the imperative to identify excuses pertaining to one's surroundings or upbringing and to pivot one's focus toward personal accountability. When you engage in genuine self-communion, you can frequently unearth the underlying fears that fuel these justifications. You can recognize that while external factors may indeed present obstacles, the ultimate decision to remain constrained or to transcend them rests with you. This is the very heart of the why not you? It is a bold, defiant interrogation directed not outward at the world, but inward at oneself. It challenges the deeply ingrained conviction that success, fulfillment, and the actualization of potential are exclusive privileges of others. It poses the question, why should I be the one to acquiesce to a lesser existence? Why should I be the one to inhabit a life of what-ifs? This question serves as the antidote to the passive resignation that precipitates unfulfilled potential. It is a declaration of intent, a commitment to personal agency. When you pose the question, why not me? You are actively deconstructing the psychological mechanisms that undermine your progress. Negative self-talk, for instance, functions as a relentless barrage of minuscule projectiles, each one eroding your self-assurance and resolve. I am insufficient. This is excessively arduous. I will likely falter regardless. Each of these pronouncements plants a seed of doubt that, if left unchecked, will blossom into a dense forest of limitations. Therefore, what are the immediate, actionable stratagems you can employ to disrupt this cycle? The initial step is heightened awareness. Merely observing when you are engaging in negative self-dialogue is a potent commencement. When you detect yourself thinking, "I am incapable of this," pause. Acknowledge the thought without condemnation. Subsequently, gently challenge it. Inquire of yourself, is this thought factually accurate? What evidence do I possess that substantiates my inability to accomplish this? What evidence do I possess that supports my capacity to do so? Frequently, you will discover that your negative contemplations are predicated on assumptions, fears, or past encounters that do not necessarily apply to your present circumstances. Following this, consciously substitute the detrimental thought with one that is more equitable or empowering. This is not an exercise in forced optimism, it is a practice of realistic self-assessment. In lieu of "I am incapable of this," endeavor to articulate, "This presents a challenge, but I possess the capacity to acquire the requisite skills." Or, "I may not achieve perfection on the initial attempt, but I can persist in trying." This transition, however seemingly minor, initiates the rewiring of your neural pathways. It begins to forge new connections, pathways of confidence and resilience rather than those of apprehension and self-limitation. Beyond these cognitive recalibrations, how do we cultivate the discipline essential for consistent action? It is not about awaiting the arrival of inspiration. It is about the systematic establishment of habits. Conceive of it as the development of muscular strength. One does not attain robustness through mere aspiration, one attains it through the consistent application of resistance training, even when the inclination is absent. The same principle applies to the pursuit of your objectives. Begin with modest undertakings. If your aspiration is to author a book, refrain from committing to 3 hours of writing daily from the outset. This may prove overwhelming. Instead, pledge to write for 20 minutes, or even 10 minutes. The paramount factor is consistency. Engage in this practice daily, at the same designated time if feasible. Once this habit is firmly established, you can incrementally extend the duration. The act of presenting oneself, of engaging in the work, even when one's emotions are vehemently urging cessation, is what engenders true discipline. It is here that the concept of sacrifice emerges, though it is frequently framed as a deficit. In reality, however, discipline and sacrifice represent investments. They are the cost of admission to a life of realized potential. When you elect to dedicate an hour to advancing your objectives rather than passively scrolling through social media, you are making a sacrifice. Yet you are simultaneously gaining an hour of progress, an hour of momentum, an hour that draws you nearer to the individual you aspire to become. This stands in direct opposition to the passive acceptance that culminates in unfulfilled potential. Therefore, how can individuals practically discern the distinction between genuine external impediments and self-imposed mental constraints that masquerade as such? This is a question of paramount importance, as it is remarkably easy to attribute our failures to the external world. Observe recurring patterns. Are the obstacles invariably the same, irrespective of the context? Do they consistently manifest precisely when you are on the cusp of making headway? If such is the case, it serves as a potent indicator that the barrier is internal. Consider this scenario. You harbor the ambition to establish a business. An external obstacle might be the scarcity of capital, a labyrinthine regulatory landscape, or formidable competition. These are authentic challenges that necessitate strategic ingenuity and dedicated effort to surmount. A self-imposed mental limitation, conversely, would involve the internal pronouncement, "I lack sufficient experience," or "individuals from my background do not achieve success in this endeavor." While you may genuinely perceive a deficit in experience, the pertinent question is, have you actively sought to acquire it? Have you explored online educational modules, sought mentorship, or pursued entry-level positions? Or have you utilized the perceived absence of experience as a pretext for inaction? The crux of the matter lies in questioning oneself. If this external factor were absent, would I still be making Progress? If the response is negative, then the external factor constitutes a genuine impediment. However, if the response remains negative, or if you find yourself fabricating new justifications, then the limitation likely resides within your own psyche. It is about embracing accountability. It is about acknowledging that while you cannot always dictate the circumstances you encounter, you can invariably govern your response to them. This is the essence of transitioning from a victim mentality to a victor mentality. The psychological mechanisms through which negative self-talk and limiting convictions undermine potential are deeply entrenched. Our brains are wired for survival, and in this capacity, they frequently default to caution and the avoidance of perceived threats. Negative thoughts function as these perceived threats, warning us away from potential failure, rejection, or pain. This is a protective mechanism, but it transforms into a prison when it inhibits us from undertaking the necessary risks for growth. The immediate, actionable steps to interrupt this cycle, as previously articulated, commence with heightened awareness. Subsequently, one must engage in challenging the thought. Ask yourself, what is the most adverse outcome that could realistically materialize if I were to attempt this? Frequently, the imagined repercussions far exceed the actual possibilities. Then reframe the narrative. Instead of fixating on what could go awry, concentrate on what could unfold favorably. What are the potential advantages of attempting? What would you learn, even if the outcome were not perfectly realized? Finally, undertake a small, tangible action. This is of critical importance. The act of doing, however diminutive, breaks the inertia of an action. It provides concrete evidence that you are capable of advancing, which in turn diminishes the hold of limiting convictions. This is how you commence the systematic dismantling of the internal architecture of your unlived life, one component at a time. But why not you? Perspective is not an expression of arrogance. It is a testament to self-belief and a profound comprehension of personal obligation. It involves recognizing the extraordinary potential residing within you, the singular confluence of talents, experiences, and viewpoints that only you possess, and understanding that it represents a profound waste, a tragedy, to allow that potential to remain dormant. The true hell is not the failure to achieve something remarkable, it is the failure to even attempt to become the individual you are capable of being. It is to confront the specter of your unlived life, the phantom of what might have been, and to know that you possess the agency to bring it to fruition, yet consciously abstained. This internal struggle, this mastery of one's own mind. Conclusion: you stand at a precipice. Behind you lies the comfortable, familiar landscape of what has been, the choices made, the paths taken, and, crucially, the paths left untrodden. Before you, stretching out into the unknown, is the stark, undeniable reality of the person you could have been. This is the phantom that haunts the periphery of your awareness, the silent accuser in the hushed hours. It is the unlived life, and it is your true Gehenna. Imagine, for a moment, encountering that spectral echo of yourself. Not a stranger, but a perfect mirror reflecting every dream you let wither, every skill you neglected to hone, every risk you shied away from. What would its eyes hold? Not anger, perhaps, but a profound, aching disappointment. What words would it whisper? Likely none, for its very presence screams the accusation, this could have been you. We could have been you. This is not a distant, hypothetical future punishment. It is a present danger, a slow erosion of your very spirit, that occurs with every moment you choose comfort over courage, inertia over action. You have wrestled with the ideas in this book, perhaps felt the sting of recognition, the discomfort of confronting your own excuses. This is auspicious. This resistance, this inner pushback against the call to effort, is a sign that the spark of potential still flickers within you. But now you are at a crossroads. The knowledge is yours. The choice, as always, rests solely with you. To continue the slow descent into the unlived, or to finally, decisively, pivot towards the life that is waiting to be claimed. Why is this unfulfilled potential such a profound torment? Because it represents the ultimate, self-inflicted wound. We often fear external failure, the judgment of others, the sting of rejection. But the deepest regret, the most searing pain, originates from within. It is the silent, internal tally of opportunities missed, of talent squandered, the sheer waste of what could have been. The bill for not trying arrives not in dollars and cents, but in the currency of self-worth, in the quiet knowing of regret that far outweighs any temporary discomfort of effort. We seek safety in avoidance, building walls around ourselves to shield us from the possibility of failure. But this avoidance is not safety, it is the greatest risk of all. It is the risk of never truly knowing what you are capable of living a life defined by what you didn't do rather than by what you achieved. Each time you defer a dream, each time you choose an excuse over action, you chip away at your own foundation. You make it harder for the courageous, driven person you could be to emerge. The question remains, why not you? Why should your potential remain locked away, a prisoner of your own hesitation? This is not about dwelling in the shadows of what might have been, but about stepping boldly into the light of what can be. The unlived life is a shadow, but a life fully lived is a vibrant reality. A lived life is one where you actively engage with your purpose, where effort is not a burden, but a tool for growth, and where you possess the courage to confront your own limitations, not to be defeated by them, but to transcend them. It is the antithesis of a life merely existed, a passive experience of time slipping away without genuine engagement. The path forward is clear, though not easy. It begins with radical responsibility. You are not a leaf blown by the winds of fate. You are the architect of your own existence. Embrace this truth fully. Then harness the power of discipline and sacrifice. These are not punishments, but the very tools that forge greatness, the engines that drive progress. And finally, cultivate the courage to pursue. Step into the arena, not with the guarantee of success, but with the unwavering commitment to give your all. So, what is the very next step? It is not a grand, sweeping change that must happen overnight. It is the first small act of courage. Look within yourself right now. Identify one single, tangible action you can take, today or tomorrow, to move even an inch closer to a dream, or to dismantle a long-held inertia. Perhaps it's researching that course you've always wanted to take, making that difficult phone call, dedicating a single hour to practicing that skill, or simply making a conscious decision to stop making an excuse for one specific thing. Remember, significant change is not born from sporadic bursts of inspiration, but from the steady accumulation of consistent, small efforts. The master of your dreams is forged in the quiet, daily grind, not in the fleeting moments of grand pronouncements. The most profound revolution, however, begins within. It is the ongoing practice of mastering your own mind, of choosing action over fleeting emotion, of silencing the relentless inner critic that whispers doubt and fear. Cultivate a mindset that views challenges not as insurmountable roadblocks, but as opportunities for growth, as irrefutable proof that you are alive and striving. The ultimate reward for this journey is not external validation or material success, though those may well follow. It is the deep, unshakable internal satisfaction of knowing that you gave your absolute best. It is the profound peace that comes from facing your own reflection without the haunting presence of the unlived life. The choice, my friend, is yours. Will you continue to be haunted by the phantoms of what might have been, or will you forge a legacy of what is? Go forth, not with the paralyzing fear of failure, but with the fierce, unyielding determination to live the life that is yours to claim. Your potential is not your hell, it is your greatest, most magnificent opportunity. Go now and claim it.